Can surrendering help you get sober? In this video, we're going to break down the power of surrender and how it changed my life and how it can change yours too. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name's Josh, living life alcohol free. If you guys are returning, your subscribers or members or both, I appreciate every single one of you being here. So let's get into this. Surrender. How did it change my life and how can it change your life? Surrendering just means giving up power. It just means giving up the idea that we are in charge of everything, that we are in charge of this whole drinking life that we live, this whole existence that we're living. And it's just giving up the idea that we can do it ourselves. We have some power. We have the power to control ourselves. We don't have the power to control other people. We don't have the power to control this universe, this world, but we do have the power to control ourselves. So what happened when I quit drinking was a couple weeks prior to quitting drinking, I just got down on my hands and knees and I begged God to take me out of my pain, take me out of my addiction, if that's what it took. I was struggling with my drinking. I was drinking every day around noon or 1 o'clock. I was starting earlier and earlier in the day. I was drinking longer and longer as the days went on. And my benders were lasting 4, 5, 6 days straight. I just couldn't take that pain anymore. The hangovers were ridiculous. The blacking out was ridiculous. The pain and misery that I was putting myself through because of my drinking was just becoming intolerable. I was lashing out. I was getting angry and irritable all the time because I just couldn't control my drinking. And then as a result, I couldn't control anything else in my life. I couldn't control myself. I couldn't control my circumstances. I couldn't control anything. And it was out of my hands. And when I would hear that, I, it, I hated it. I couldn't handle hearing that about myself. You know, I'm married, and when I have deep conversations with my wife and we talk about what we're going through and we're honest with ourselves and with our spouse or with a loved one or with whoever we have in our life that we can share openly with, when we do that, we're vulnerable and we don't know exactly what the other person's going to say. And years ago, and even into 2020, I would hear my wife say every now and then, "You can't handle anything." And as painful as that was to hear, of course, I denied it. We deny it a lot of times, especially when we're in the clutches of addiction. We just deny, what we're truly going through and how we're handling things. But the honest to God truth was I couldn't handle anything. And it all came pouring out when I got down on my hands and knees, ugly crying, asking God to take me out of this pain and help me figure out a way to get through this. If that's quitting drinking, then so be it. I was 42 years old. I didn't necessarily want to continue drinking, but I also wasn't necessarily ready to give it up yet either. I started drinking when I was 15 years old. So I was, 27 years as a binge drinker. And that's what I knew. That's how I knew to live my life. And as much of a punishment as I felt I was giving myself for drinking, I was still finding solace in it. The ritual of going to the store and buying it, of picking it out, the ritual of thinking about how much I was going to drink and what time I was going to drink and how much I could drink and get away with it and not feel hungover the next day was like living on the edge. I felt like that was normal and that was what I looked forward to each day and something that I could be in control of. But then we have the fallout from that. So I would start to black out. I would start to forget things. I would start to kind of, forget what I was saying and doing and watching and reading and what people were telling me. I might text or I might say things that wouldn't normally say. And then you get to the end of the day, you pass out or go to bed, whatever you want to call it, and you wake up at 3 a.m. You've got the anxiety, the anger, the anxiety, and the bad feelings and the regrets and everything like that, and just beating yourself up, maybe nausea, indigestion, headache, all that. You get back to sleep. Maybe you get back to sleep for a few hours. It's not great sleep, but at least you get some sleep. For me, on days off of work, I would get up, do my routine, take care of what I needed to take care of, go back to bed, take a nap, take a long nap, an hour, go back to bed for a while. And that was my existence. And I hated it. But at the same time, I still found solace in drinking because I felt like I was in control. I felt like I could have, not in control of my intake of drinking, not in control of my life, but just I had something that I could control. Something that I could, I'm an adult. I'm allowed to go to the store and buy alcohol. I'm allowed to go home and drink it. I'm allowed to do that. And as a result, giving myself that long leash, I was, society just has a way of glorifying alcohol. And if you don't drink it, you're not normal. Or if you don't drink it, you had a problem with it. And there's a stigma to that. At any rate, I just started to question my drinking and where I was with that, with my drinking. And I started to do that week by week. Every time I'd have these long benders, I would get to the end of the week and I would be like, man, I'm exhausted. Maybe I added some hard liquor to my binge and had an extra hangover. Maybe I wasn't throwing up, but I was anxious as hell. My heart rate was sky high and not going down for like a day or two. And as we get older, those hangovers last longer. So I was just telling and asking God and begging God, actually begging, like, can you please just take me out of this and help me figure out a way to get through it without this pain and this anguish, because I'm tired of living this way. I can't do it anymore. And so I went for another couple weeks drinking like I normally was. But one particular night, I had a blow up at my family, April 27th, 2020. And that ultimately ended up being the last day that I drank. I woke up, I regretted what I said and how I lashed out at my family. And I yelled and I got upset and angry over something that one of my daughters said. And I just became unglued. And it all came out again. All that anger and irritation, resentment, all those things, all and fear, all came out. And I woke up the next day and I knew I did wrong. I apologized to each person individually. My wife wasn't there, so I texted her. Um, and I just, I told my oldest daughter, I said, I don't know. I know that alcohol is a problem. I know that I need to quit. I don't know that I'm going to be able to quit cold turkey because I've been drinking every day for the last 6 weeks, but I'm going to investigate this. I'm going to see what I need to do. If I need to wean myself off of alcohol, I'll do that. That was actually what I thought I was going to be doing. But I did a little bit of research. I found a book called This Naked Mind by Annie Grace. I read the whole book in a couple days. At the end of the book was thisnakedmind.com. I typed it in. I got on the community. I read some posts. I noticed that people were alcohol free for some time, some weeks, some months, and in some cases, some years. I looked at that and I thought, up until now, I had been thinking I just want to be a regular drinker, have one or two and be done, not crave a binge session. That's what appealed to me to this book, was how to control your drinking or how to control alcohol. And I wanted to be in control of it, not have it control me. But as I read some of these testimonials, I thought these people are not drinking at all. Maybe I should try that. I'm already on day 3 or 4, and I have a therapy appointment next week. Maybe I should just not drink until I get to that appointment, see how that appointment goes, and then go from there. And that's ultimately what I did. I read another book right after that. that took me into my therapy visit. It was called Alcohol Explained by William Porter. That really broke down the science of addiction, the science of our drinking, and really how it plays a role in our binge drinking. And that really helped. It helped me make sense of it all. And then I got to my therapy visit, and I went in. I told him I'm going to be drinking after we're done here. I was just straight up honest about that. He told me, if you go home and you drink, just think about how you feel after one, after two, after three. Don't just mindlessly drink. And I'm not condoning that you drink, but if you're going to do it, which it sounds like you are, just notice how you're feeling. I got home. I heard the voices of my family having a good time in the other room, and I thought, I don't want to wash this away anymore. I don't want to do it. So I ultimately didn't drink that day. I went another week. I got to my therapy visit, and of course, I told my therapist I didn't drink. He was pleasantly surprised. It was actually rewarding to have someone brighten up like that. Just like, I thought for sure you were going to drink, and the fact that you didn't was awesome. Is awesome. And just having that 2 weeks now of being alcohol free, and then feeling better, and then feeling like I'm doing this. That beer that I planned on drinking on day 8 when I had that therapy visit was still in my fridge, but I wasn't really craving it. It was just, I drank so much of it over the years that it didn't even sound good. And that beer ultimately was in my fridge for 4 months before I ended up dumping it all out. And as that time was going on, and this Naked Mind is not a faith-based community, so I didn't really share too much about my faith journey and how I surrendered to God, and how I feel like that was really the reason and the way that I got sober, the reason why I found that group, the reason why I found those books, the reason why I resonated with certain people on there and made friendships with them, the reason why I was getting on weekly Zooms and able to show my face. Up to that point, I wasn't even able to show my face or be honest about my recovery or be honest about what I was going through daily with my drinking, with my anxiety, with my anger, and all of it. And I had breakthroughs. Every day was a breakthrough. I was adding new things to my sober tool chest. I was using those tools every single day. I was finding solace in that. For me, it was hiking, it was prayer, it was meditating, it was um, walking my dogs, playing with my dogs, spending more time with them, and spending more time with my daughters, my kids, and just being present. And all those things, they brought me joy, and it was sustained joy. So, what am I getting at here? Well, I think surrender looks different for everybody. And I did a live stream yesterday, and somebody asked me, and if you're here, thank you so much for being here. I don't remember the name of the person that said it or asked it, but what does surrender look like to you? And I was glad that they asked me that question, because it gave me an opportunity to share what I went through in my time of need, my surrender. It was surrendering, but it was also begging, and it gave me an opportunity to share, which I've shared before, but it's been a minute. An opportunity to share that, over the first few years of my recovery, I wasn't really focused on my faith. And then somewhere along the line, I found this pastor that I used to like to attend their church, who left that church. I found out that he was launching another church, and I ultimately went to that church. I met the pastor, introduced myself to the pastor, and told him about my sobriety. It took me some time. It almost took about a year, actually, to open up and introduce myself. But when I did, I introduced myself, and I told him about that I was 2.5, three, going on 3 years sober. I wasn't planning on saying that. I wasn't planning on making that a thing, but I wanted it, but it just came out. And then I wanted to say thank you because the messages that he was sharing that I resonated with were helping me in my recovery. And man, how powerful it was and is to have somebody that speaks truth, but also that says it in a way that resonates with me. I ultimately that same year, into that next year, did a testimonial about my sobriety and how I came to my faith and how I gave God all the glory, Jesus Christ, and that is who I give all my glory to, and it helped me to have that avenue that I could open up to. I felt like I couldn't do that with This Naked Mind, and it's not a knock on This Naked Mind, but I felt like the people that were there, yes, they're spiritual, but not necessarily Christian, and not necessarily they don't necessarily believe in God at all. Um, so I'm not saying that you have to, you know, surrender to God or um, give everything over to a higher power. Um, that's what worked for me. And like I said, I didn't really give that a ton of weight until I really started to learn about my faith, learn about Jesus, learn about God, read the Bible, attend church, start to, open up about my sobriety. And all these things were like stepping stones that led me to starting a YouTube channel. And I didn't even start that until like year 3.5. So that whole year between years 2.5 and into my being alcohol free to 3.5, that's when I launched the channel. And I felt like I was ready. I was confident. I did a podcast with Annie Grace from This Naked Mind. And they were all stepping stones to get to where I ultimately am today, which is blessed enough to be here with you guys making this content. So, what I've also learned about being alcohol free is that, and in my faith, is that like begging isn't the way that it's supposed to be. Yeah, he'll answer those questions. And I was watching a college basketball game last night, and it really, what one of the announcers said resonated with me and made me think I need to make a video about this. I was already planning on it, but this just solidified in my mind that I gotta talk about this. And he said, one of the coaches, some of these coaches, they are resorting to prayer. And I thought, resorting to prayer, wow. I mean, that's what I did when I begged God to take me out of my addiction. Begging, I begged. And that's so I kind of had to look it up. If I'm honest, I looked it up. Is it okay to beg? And I already know the answer to this, but I wanted to like read a couple articles and see what people think about this and see what the psychology is of it. And what I figured out, what I kind of already know is that it's okay to beg, but eventually we get to a point where it's a daily habit. Prayer is a daily thing, and you get to a point where I got to a point where it's my first go-to thing. Like if I'm struggling with something, I pray. When I wake up in the morning, I say what I'm grateful for. I pray it forward. I pray for strength. I pray for endurance. I pray to shield away Satan. I pray to shield away the evil powers in my life or that come and go into my life, and pray for grace through it all. And I'm proactive at it. So yeah, begging is good. Surrendering is good. Um, Maybe if you don't believe in God or or whatever your faith might be, or maybe you're not faithful, you don't believe in God or any of it. Um, but we still like I feel like we still need to surrender to the notion that we can control things, control our drinking in particular, and control how we respond and react while we're intoxicated. And when we're in addiction, it's hard to do that. So I do feel like there's power in surrendering, at least to the notion that we can do this ourselves. And that just goes to say community is everything. You know, in my church and in my faith and all of that, community is the reason why things work in particular. And I've always been, and I said it in the live stream yesterday, I've always been somebody who was not into establishments, not into this hierarchy business, like I just want to do things my way. I don't want to have to uh, you know come to a consensus with a bunch of people. I want to be able to run something the way that I run it, like I'm doing with this YouTube channel. But in all honesty, this is a community, and this is where we go to talk this out about our issues with alcohol. And that's kind of why I started Sobriety in the Storm, my private Facebook group, and I pin it in all the link in all my videos. Is we all need a place where we can go and just talk about and be honest about our issues with alcohol, and and just surrender to the notion that we can do this ourselves. I was never able to quit cold turkey, stayed off alcohol in the past because, and I know it's because I was trying to do it by myself with sheer willpower and not enough knowledge. And I chose to stay ignorant about my issues with alcohol. I chose to stay ignorant about the truth about alcohol. I chose to stay ignorant about the things that I was sweeping under the rug and the fact that one day I was going to have to face those demons. And I did that for a long, long time. And it just got to the point where I just was exhausted by it. And I didn't want to live like that anymore. And the first thing was to give up alcohol. And for me, the first thing I did before I was able to quit was surrender to that notion. Can't do it myself. I need help. That was, for me, that was God. And then it was just growing in my Christianity. I was baptized 10 years ago. Well, it was 2013 that I was baptized, so 12 years ago. And that changed things to a certain degree, but I still wasn't really ready to like just be all in on prayer and all in on Jesus, all in on God, because of the drinking. So that's what changed for me. Once I eliminated the alcohol, I was really able to first of all, focus on myself, focus on my sobriety, focus on the things that matter. And as time went on, I started to grow more in all aspects of my life. Faith just happened to be part of it. It happens to be like the number one thing now. My faith and my sobriety go hand in hand. But whatever that looks like for you, I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're present, whether you're drinking or not. I'm glad that you're questioning alcohol, because that's the first step. So I'm glad that you guys are here. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video, and I will see you on the next one.